Welcome back, you guys, and there are some NBA players that have produced high-level numbers just a year ago or a few years ago, and they need to bounce back in 2019. Their disappointing seasons have been talked about a lot, but what about players that aren't as well known and are just role players that need to bounce back? These role players did not have great years last season, and if they can improve in 2019, then their team's bench or starting lineup will only get that much stronger. Before we get started, I want to thank Global Test Market for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking for an easy way to earn cash or gift cards from sites like Amazon, this is the site you should go to. All you have to do is take research surveys to help brands improve their products. While you're taking these surveys, you'll be earning money. I have used this in the past. It is completely free. All you have to do is click my link in the description, sign up, and start earning. If you still have free time to kill on summer break, I say why not try it out. Thank you to Global Test Market again for sponsoring this video. First on the list, we got Norman Powell, and his downfall on the Toronto Raptors has been disappointing from what we saw in the past. It wasn't too long ago when Norman was given the job of guarding Paul George as a rookie in the 2016 playoffs, and he did well in that role. He was able to defend top offensive threats, so DeMar DeRozan did not have to. In his second season, he played more games and got more minutes and boosted his value as a player. In 9 postseason games in 2017, he averaged 11 points and shot 44% from the three-point line. At 25 years old, he solidified himself as the Raptors' 3-and-D wing of the future and secured a 4-year, $42 million contract. Norman was supposed to be good for the Raptors' wing depth going forward, but this past season he has fallen out of the rotation, and it's pretty uncertain of what to expect from him going forward. To refresh your memory, he started at small forward in the beginning of the year but missed a few games due to a hip injury in November. Once Norman got back from his injury, he didn't play too much with the starters because he was just getting outplayed by the other bench players. He even went a few games without getting a minute. Raptors first round pick OG Anunoby broke out as the team's best wing defender, Delon Wright gave good production, and Fred VanVleet showed the ability to be a primary ball handler, and because of that, Norman lost a lot of minutes. The other reason Norman lost minutes was not because of his defense, it was his non-existent offense. He did not play well as a reserve, to put it briefly. He doesn't really have a dribble drive game, so you can't ask him to create offense, and his three-point shot has fallen off bad. I don't know if this was just one bad shooting year or he's lost all of his confidence. Since he got outplayed by other younger players, the Raptors were looking at his trade value going into the 2018 draft. This upcoming year, he's going to be coming off the bench, but he'll have his opportunities. Norman will probably play about 15 minutes per game, and what I'll be paying attention to is him increasing his three-point percentage, because that is what will help him stay on the floor. We are about 5 years removed from when Nerlens Noel was considered the #1 pick in the NBA draft and then fell to number 6 in 2013. Since that injury, his basketball career hasn't turned out how some thought it would. Things like injuries, inconsistent on-court play, and focus have been culprits of why he's been on 3 teams in 5 years and why he's currently on a minimum contract. Remember, it was just last year when he declined a $70 million extension with the Mavericks. He probably wishes he took that contract now, but this is his current reality. With OKC, he'll be a backup big and competing for minutes with Steven Adams and Jeremy Grant. I am still on the Nerlens Noel bandwagon. I think he can turn out to be a starting level center. He was decent at defending the rim in his rookie year. What made that year impressive was he was playing with guys that aren't even in the league anymore and simply were not good defenders. This upcoming year is going to be a prove-it season for Nerlens. He's going to get asked to spot minutes if Adams is in foul trouble and just not make too many mistakes. He's also probably going to be a part of a playoff team, so let's say he plays decent in the regular season and gets spot minutes in the playoffs. That'll be good for contract negotiations next summer. Nick Batum is the third role player we'll talk about that needs to have a big year. Nick is the most established player on this list. He's had a lot of success on Portland and got a huge contract a few years ago from Charlotte. But for the Hornets, he hasn't been the guy they've needed on the perimeter. Nick Batum is what we call someone that is consistently inconsistent. He'll go a week looking like a good shooter, defender, and playmaker, but then for the next 2 weeks after that, you forget he's even on the court. The lowest point of this past season for Nick was when he shot 0 of 10 from the field in a 20-point loss against the Raptors. His basic stats on a quick glance don't look too bad, but when you factor in that he's making $75 million over the next 3 years and he's Charlotte's highest paid player, he's been disappointing. The big problem with Batum is this: his years in Charlotte are a role change from what he was doing in Portland. With the Blazers, he was just a 3-and-D player next to Dame and Aldridge that sometimes made plays off the dribble. With the Hornets, he and Kemba Walker are the two main playmakers on the perimeter in the starting lineup, so he's playing a larger role in creating offense for himself and others. But it's not all bad for Batum. His skill set is still valuable and would be more suited on an established playoff team rather than the Hornets, who need to blow up the roster in my opinion. But hey, there is an open spot at the end of the East playoff race. The Hornets have a shot at the 7th or 8th seed in my opinion. Will they get that? Some of that will depend on if Nick Batum can stay consistent as a scorer. That's the big question, because he can move the ball and defend, but can you help out Kemba if he's having an off night? Fourth on the list, we have Stanley Johnson, who will be a 4th-year forward for the Detroit Pistons this year. He started 50 games this year and was used as their primary perimeter defender. On offense is where Stanley has disappointed the most as a player since he was drafted with the 8th pick in 2015. He doesn't have 1 year shooting above 40% from the field and shot above 30% from the three-point line once, and that was his rookie season. Stanley has a broken jumper, not to mention he's not really someone you can trust as an ISO player or as a pick-and-roll player. On the other side of it, he's not really utilized much on offense outside of standing at the three-point line. With Stan Van Gundy, he was almost forgotten about on offense, but to be fair to Stan, it's really hard to get a guy involved that can't create opportunities with his dribble or make a three-point shot. As an offensive player, he hasn't improved much and he's not reliable. Again, it's not all bad. Stanley is still young. He's only 22 years old, so he has time to develop. Plus, if there's anything you can give new head coach Dwayne Casey credit for, is that he does play his young guys a lot of minutes so they can learn on the fly. Dwayne Casey said this in an interview about Stanley. It's his consistency and getting his mojo and swag back. I believe in Stanley. That's the first thing I told him in the interview. There's something with Stanley Johnson there, and we have to bring it out of him. The offense is going to take some time, but he is a reliable defensive player, which is a positive. He is listed at 6'7" and 245 pounds, and he uses those physical tools to slide with who he's guarding and body players up. He's not an all-defensive player or anything, but he's somebody you can trust to compete on that end of the floor. The big thing for Stanley and most 3-and-D wings like him is making three-point shots. Having spacing on the wing is very important, and especially important on a Pistons team with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. You need to have respectable shooters on the wing, so teams have to pick and choose when to double Griffin and Drummond. If Stanley can shoot around 33 to 34% from 3 this year, which is a big jump, that would be good for his development. I'll be paying attention to see how he shoots from there. Last on the list, we got Thon Maker, who's going to be in his 3rd season with the Milwaukee Bucks. Through 2 seasons, Thon Maker has not been an MVP for the Bucks like Kevin Garnett thought he would. He's really just another guy off the bench, to be honest. He's not a rebounder, he has a shaky outside shot, and he gets bullied for position in the paint. Those 3 things are why he hasn't broken out as a player like some thought he would. At the 2018 trade deadline, the Bucks acquired Tyler Zeller. Seeing that they play the same position, Thon lost a lot of minutes. He just didn't have an impact during the regular season. But for some reason, Thon transforms in the postseason and becomes an impact player for the Bucks. He had back-to-back 5-block games against the Celtics and made some 3-point shots too. It's simple, if he can do those 2 things consistently during the regular season, he'll get more playing time. It doesn't have to be like 5 blocks or anything, but he just needs to be a nuisance on the defensive end. Seeing how he plays in the playoffs, it's really frustrating because that's not how he plays during the regular season and why he doesn't get many minutes. Again, like most of the players on this list, he's still young and on a rookie contract, so let's give him time. I thought he could be a good starter for the Bucks in 2018, but that hasn't happened yet. Not to mention with Brook Lopez and Ersan Ilyasova being added to the roster, I wonder if Thon gets relegated to a lesser role if he continues to slip up. And that is it for me, just talking about some role players that are going to be playing for their reputations next year. I'll definitely be paying attention to see how they develop over the year. If I missed a role player that you think needs to step up for your team in 2019, then go ahead and drop it in the comments. I hope you found this one interesting to listen to, and I'll see you guys in my next one.